Hello, welcome to another video about the implementation of GPT through Bing. So what's now clear is that Bing, or Bing Chat more specifically, is using GPT-4. And so what I've decided to do is, as a sort of spring off of the video I did last week, which I called something like Fun Messing Around in Bing Chat, I'm going to do an ongoing series which is going to be, I think I'm going to call it something like In Conversation with Bing Chat GPT-4, whatever I decide. And each week I'm going to just ask Bing Chat certain questions in certain domains for certain topics. In today's episode, it's going to be philosophy questions. In other episodes, it might be ones based around music, or ones based around Magic the Gathering, or ones based around AI. Additionally, in the week, I'm also going to try and carry on doing that Understanding AI series, where I explore certain terms and sort of try and pin them down in terms of AI related terms. But obviously, because of the current interest surrounding transformers and GPT specifically, and OpenAI and other firms that are doing similar things in the particular technological space, no doubt a lot of that's going to be around the specific type of models that are being touted or used at the moment. So this morning, when I was trying to think through what I should ask it, I thought, well, why don't I dig out my Mastering Philosophy book? So I've got an earlier copy of this. Go to the problem section of the metaphysics and start asking him about metaphysical things. I thought it'd be interesting to do. We've heard stories already about ChatGPT, and I'm assuming it's through the actual OpenAI delivered interface, but about it acing tests and doing well on certain things. I thought it'd be interesting to see how it responds to the problem domain of philosophy and what happens. I'm not necessarily expecting great things, because I do accept that I don't know whether this has been fine-tuned for philosophy questions, particularly metaphysics. And also, it's going to be interesting to see what sort of prompt engineering, I believe it's called, is going on, because you can sort of see some of what is going on in the front end. And if you've not seen this before, not watched the previous episode, you'll catch on to what I mean. So I don't think the page numbers are going to make a lot of difference, but I'm in the book I mentioned, Mastering Philosophy by Anthony Harrison Barbett. I'm not even sure what edition this is actually. Oh, second edition. And metaphysics, Mastering Philosophy section, problems under questions. So let's see. So could it... So I've got my book in one hand and I'm trying to do two finger typing here. It's always fun with a microphone in your face, trying to do this sort of stuff. As we go on, I might have to not refer back to the book so much. It'll be interesting to see if I have to draw the answers out or rephrase them. Is this like a Turing test maybe? I don't know. Oops. That's not how you spell machine. Would it ever make sense to attribute a personality to a machine? That's the funny thing about this is, and I haven't mentioned yet, is I actually tried this the other day with I've got a AS philosophy book, or I think it's an A2 one actually, from a good 5 years ago or so, and I tried it with some of the questions from there, And I think the timing was just lousy, but about 5 questions in, it said, "You have exceeded your usage in the last 24 hours." And I'm thinking, well, I know I've been using ChatGPT a lot, but I don't think I had. And it's almost like it's brain locked up. Okay, so what do we got? This looks interesting. Machines can be programmed to act like humans. So I asked it, could it ever make sense to attribute personality to a machine? Machines can be programmed to act like humans and trick humans that it is not a machine. This brings up the question, could a machine pass off as a human being and have human emotions if it is programmed to have these emotions? By using the Turing Test, it has shown us that computers can be programmed to act like a human, but does not show that the computer can think on its own without the programmer. However, it is important to note that machines do not have emotions or personalities like humans do. They can be programmed to simulate emotions and personalities, but they do not have the same experiences or consciousness as humans. Okay. What is the Turing test? What is consciousness? What is the difference between human and machine intelligence? So the other thing to note here, because we're going to dissect this quite a bit, I haven't really set myself at a limit on how long this video is going to run. Probably I'll do it till I get bored. I also tend to keep an eye on this, and when chat generally gets a little bit confused about what it's supposed to be focusing on. So search for, could it ever make sense to personally, and then can machines have personalities? So you can see how it sort of rephrases this, and this comes under the banner, I believe, of prompt engineering. So what's interesting is Microsoft Bing, or what I have no clue how they've implemented the front end here. Let's be honest about this. But clearly something is manipulating the questions to make it more palatable, I suppose, for whatever they're using in the back end. So what other question could we ask it at this point? The other thing, if you've not used this much, and I don't know how much I'm going to be able to illustrate this because I'm going to be firing questions at it, and we'll only go up to maximum of 15 here, is that obviously you can reference easily what you've done before. So let's just try that. Can you expand on this and see? So we're in a, if you like, a chat conversation stream. Okay, the Turing test is a test of a machine's ability to exhibit intelligent behaviour equivalent to or indistinguishable from that of a human. Consciousness is the state or quality of awareness or of being aware of an external object or something with oneself. Human intelligence is the ability to learn, understand and make judgments or have opinions that are based on reason. Human emotions are complex psychological states that involve 3 distinct components: a subjective experience, a psychological response and a behavioural or expressive response. So in some ways this is a bit like doing, if anybody there's done like a via voice type exam where you have to sit with an examiner and they'll ask you a question, you'll respond, and they might get you to riff around the question. I've actually been in that position, but not for technical assessment, and it's quite interesting how that is handled by the examiner, because you could argue that sometimes they get a chance to intentionally or unintentionally lead you a little bit. Okay. So I'm just looking through, that flick you heard was me going through here. It says, maybe I should ask it a question that there is an answer for in the book, just to compare this. So what I need as well is I need a proper set of varifocal lenses here. This is hopefully, I mean, it's painful for me to do this. I imagine it's quite painful for people to watch, but I can always pad it out with chat. So I'm asking a question basically about disembodied mental existence, which I know the other day had a little bit of a problem with, in that it was wanting almost me to force me down the avenue of saying, well, the predominant model for mental existence or metal existence, is, oh dear me, look at this. I am terrible here. What difficulties are there in the idea? Yeah, so it was trying to sort of corral me down. What do you call it? We're not taking a dualistic approach to the sort of mind-body problem. Difference in the idea of disembodied mental existence. Okay, so it's clarifying now. That's interesting. The idea of a disembodied mental existence is a philosophical concept that has been debated for centuries. There are several difficulties with this idea, including the fact that it is difficult to conceive a mental existence that is not tied to a physical body. According to contemporary discussions in philosophy of mind, the belief in the possibility of disembodied existence is by no means easier to be backed with a convincing philosophical argument. Where's that from? Semantic Scholar. Oh, there's a paper. In addition, there is simply no serious evidence that anyone's mind has ever survived the complete dissolution of the body. So yeah, this is definitely an angle it's taking. One thing I wanted to just show you here, if you hadn't seen me do it in a previous episode, if I just paste this into, there you go, I don't know if you can see that. So what you get, obviously, if you copy paste this, is you get all of the references as well, which is super handy. Yeah. Okay. So then I can do this. Should I? Yeah, let's keep on doing that. So can you expand on this? Okay, so I can see what it's doing here. It's actually just picking a random thing. So I'm assuming, yeah, what I might have to be is, to give it a fairer crack, I may have to be a little bit more specific. So my guess is I might have to ask it something like, can you, because what it's clearly doing is it's picking up, it's the things, where are we? Yeah, so did it mention, so it's mentioned philosophy of mind here, and so I think that's what it's doing. It's homing in on things it wants to talk about, or things it feels comfortable with. Again, I'm just assessing this from purely its external behaviour. So I've got to be careful here. I'm not attributing human-like qualities to it. Expand. Your discussion. Yeah, so it's getting a bit circular there. And this is something another important thing to raise is that I think when you're using these particular models, it is a good idea to think a lot about prompt engineering and how you phrase certain words to make this work. So what chapter is that? So I'm just looking up in the book. So hold that thought. I should have been better prepared here. Chapter 11. So what I'm doing is just seeing. So for what difficulties are there in the idea of a disembodied mental existence? Question 25, chapter 11. What does it say? Oh, here we go. Let me try and read this. So in the book, the model answer is starting from the basis of a monist theory, the hypothesis would seem to be incoherent. The notion of being disembodied implies dualism. So on what grounds can the hypothesis be ruled out? Two issues in particular might be discussed. Mind depends on body for its functioning, for example, through the brain or nervous system for perceiving, thinking and willing. Can we accept the possibility of a state of permanent unconsciousness? Could mind be conceived to exist in a non-spatial, non-temporal condition? Are not the attributes of space and time supplied by bodies? As against this, it might be argued that there is no logical impossibility in the concept of a disembodied mental life. Such life might consist of memories in a godlike state, instantaneously coexisting, but would it still be difficult to regard such memories as non-spatial? So I suppose you could argue it's taken similar lines there. The answer in the book's obviously a little bit more reflective in that it's doing that very philosophical thing of you're asking a question and then that generates questions on questions, like meta-questioning. The form that I suppose meta-questioning takes here is this. So it is going on, but it's a simplified form of meta-questioning where it's looking at the points it raises and then trying to corral you down that, maybe. I don't know. So let me try this one then. Is it logically coherent to talk about unconscious desires? Oh, there we go. I should have paid attention to what's being put up on the screen, shouldn't I? Yeah, so again, look here. Yes, it is logically coherent to talk about unconscious desires. According to Freud, the unconscious mind is a reservoir of feelings, thoughts, urges and memories that are outside of our conscious awareness. Empirical evidence suggests that unconscious phenomenon include repressed feelings and desires, memories, automatic skills, subliminal perceptions and automatic reactions. In addition, the notion of unconscious desire is thought to be other than the literal or primary sense or meaning of desire, and unconscious desire is construed as involving a mental state that is not conscious. So I'm going to put the book down now because it is quite both physically and mentally painful to carry on that way. So let's just get it to riff around stuff like this, the sort of questions that it might raise. So if I do, how might you argue against unconscious desires? Arguments against the notion of consciousness. Some have argued that when we speak of unconscious states, we radically alter our mental conceptions from their typical everyday applications. The notion of unconscious desire is thought to be other than the literal or primary sense or meaning of desire, and unconscious desire is construed as involving a mental state that is not conscious. So it's referencing back here Freud's theory of dreams. And again, I didn't specifically do this time, but if we were to copy these in, it'll include all of these links and actually slightly more, as we saw in that example. So let's see if it does the same with this one, where we actually got back more than it appears is there. You can see how this is a powerful tool for essay writing. But it's interesting because in this form, it does force you to engage, I think, with the concepts much more than just say, write me an essay on, and I'm deliberately sort of not doing that. So here I'm using it like, in the term that I think Microsoft want to use now for when they're going to implement it in Office as like a co-pilot. I heard someone the other day refer to it as thinking about as a personal intern. You always check your intern's work, or you should. So I thought it was quite a neat way of thinking about it. And certainly, in the future, this is how I'm going to use it. I'm going to use it like a research co-pilot, where I don't want it to produce a whole, like an essay or something like that for a particular subject. I'm more interested in, it's a bit like having a friend who's really well versed in a particular subject and just sitting down and having a chat with them. But the added advantage is they can reference it all, and they can say, oh well, if you want to know more, check here. And I think a lot of stuff I'm going to go in the future might fall into that category, where the sort of conversations, I don't know if I've ever mentioned this before, but one of my favourite things to do on a Sunday was to meet up with a friend, go down a pub, like the Y Mill that I've mentioned in other episodes, not to do with AI or any other local pub, or even in a cafe in a large store or somewhere like that, or a bookstore, and just talk about stuff and bounce ideas backwards and forwards. And I think that ultimately this is how I'm going to use it. Is to get me to think deeper about stuff, or to put a spotlight on areas that I'm not so familiar with. And the nice thing is I'll also be able to do my sort of due diligence and check provenance, stuff like that as well. So I suppose the problem is if you're not prepared to do that, and you could run into problems. So far I've sort of avoided a little bit of clicking on these. That can take you down some very interesting rabbit holes as well, actually. So let's just do that, because we're moving into Freud. Okay, it's pretty succinct. Freud's theory of dreams is that dreams are forms as a result of two mental processes. The first process involves unconscious forces that construct a wish that is expressed by the dream, and the second is the process of censorship that forcibly distorts the expression of the wish. Dream work was Freud's theory of dreaming. He believed that the dreams have a manifest content, which is the story of the dream that the dreamer tells. In psychoanalysis, symbols in the manifest content can be used to discover the latent content of the dream. Must admit, I don't know much about Freud generally, a few cursory things, but just reviewing how I started this, because it's easy to go completely off track. I know what I want to ask. So the Turing Test. Has the ever been passed? See what it reckons. Okay. I was curious about the first time is because it's a fact that I can't remember. I've probably read it somewhere. It's been passed. Yeah, okay. 2014, a computer program called Eugene Gossman, which simulates a 13-year-old Ukrainian boy, became the first to pass the Turing Test. However, the Turing Test has been criticised for being too easy to pass and not a true measure of intelligence. I wonder if it can do how many times has the been passed. What? That's funny. So we got conflicting. It says, to date, no computer has decidedly passed the Turing AI test, but there have been some convincing contenders. So I'm aware of Eliza, this chatbot. Okay, so yeah, in one box it's saying one thing, in another... I wonder if it's good. I'm confused. In one answer, you say the Turing test has been passed. In another, it has not. Explain your workings. No, just explain your different answers. You might try and explain its inner workings. I don't know if we want to know that. I'm confused. I apologise for the confusion. No computers decide. Okay, however, there have been some convincing contenders. So what did they actually say? That's not what they said. Okay. What are some alternatives to the Turing test? Okay, so this is good. This is stuff I didn't know about. So we've gone off at a bit of a side tangent here from asking it philosophical questions, specifically from a book, to getting it to tell us about the Turing test. But I must admit, if I'm having a discussion with a knowledgeable individual about something, or someone knows a little bit about something, it does tend to go off on some interesting tangents. There are several alternatives to the Turing test. One of them is the Winograd Schema Challenge, WSC, which is named after Stanford University's computer scientist Terry Winograd, hopefully I've pronounced that correctly. The test presents a number of multi-choice questions, within a very specific format. Another alternative is Marcus test, which is designed to test the machine's ability to learn. The Lovelace test 2.0 is another alternative which tests the machine's ability to create something new. The construction challenge tests the machine's ability to build something. The visual Turing test tests the machine's ability to recognise objects. The reverse Turing test tests the machine's ability to identify humans. Finally, the digital dissection test tests the machine's ability to understand the structure of a sentence. So lots to think about. I'm going to definitely grab that. That's a rabbit hole that I wouldn't mind going down. Okay, I might as well carry on here till I've got my 15 done. Okay, tell, because this is interesting, this is pertinent to, a lot of what goes on under the hood in the case of the sort of machine learning models we're thinking about when we think about the whole GPT thing. Tell me more about digital dissection. The other thing I've tried with this to some degree of success is where you sort of say something like expand on the concepts listed above or mentioned above. That can go a lot of different ways. So pin the frog down. Okay. So another online dissection resource is available to. What's it done here? Did it this to me the other day where it suggested like one thing, and then I got a lot of suggestions which were in different domains, because of course the word was the same used. I'm just looking here. I've just copy pasted that again. I'm just seeing here. And now it says Google's AI passed the Turing test. Okay. Oh, digital versus real. Yeah, fair enough. It definitely wants. The other thing as well, anybody that's used this a lot has probably noticed the same, is sometimes you get to a point where these three, meta questions become very repetitive. And it keeps asking you the same things that it might want you to ask. Suggesting the same questions that it wants you to ask. Okay, let's get it to explain the Turing test. The other thing I strongly suggest is never accept an explanation of the Turing test. Read the paper. I mean, that's true of a lot of things, but you'll be quite surprised what the paper actually proposes. A lot of suggestions I've seen are quite simplified explanation, if you like. And the nice thing about reading the paper is it does raise certain other side issues when it's sort of fully described. I think, wasn't the actual paper called Can Machines Think? I think that's the title of the original paper. The other thing here is you can do is obviously you can, I just control click there to take yourself to the thing. I mean, that's just standard internet usage. Oh look, there's an opera. Just seeing what other things it has here. Certainly a lot of cross-references on the Wikipedia article. And I do tend to do this quite a bit when I'm using these chatbots, or this one in particular, is to jump out and so I was just trying to find the reference in the article. Let's see. Could a computer think? Here in paper computing, machinery and intelligence. Yeah, if you scroll down, even though we're down the bottom, it takes you into Bing as well. It's another feature. So we've got our last question. Should we give it something easy, or what about do you think the Turing test proves that a machine is conscious? So watch me mangle okay, the Turing test does not perceive a machine is conscious. It tests the machine's ability to exhibit intelligent behaviour equivalent to or extinguishable from that of a human. The test measures the intelligence of a test subject to determine whether a machine can demonstrate intelligence. According to the test, a computer program can think if its responses can fool a human into believing two is human. And then we get to the end here. Sorry, this conversation reaches limits. So basically, as things currently stand, this is my understanding. Okay, this is my understanding. And it could have changed. I could be slightly wrong. But within like a single topic, that's where you don't click new topic. You get like 15 conversation bubbles, whatever you want to call them. Obviously, once you click this, that puts you into a new conversation bubble. So the count restarts. You can do that. You can sort of stop and start. And in some cases, it's worth doing that. Obviously, if you go off at a completely different topic and you don't want it to be sort of poisoned by what you've been discussing before, to keep things clean in that respect. But my understanding is it keeps a tab also on the total number of questions you ask. So it's 15 within a topic, but 150 in total in a day. At least that's my understanding. So if I did this all the way through for topics, that means I'd be able to discuss 10 topics in a 24-hour time frame. That's my understanding. if anybody's is any different or it's changed, please put in the comment section. If there's anything else you'd like me to experiment, I have a list in my mind of things I want to converse with, but it would be nice if anybody can comment on stuff they would like me to see, kick the tires of. And obviously if it matches up with something that I'm already thinking about doing, it's more likely to bump it up the list. So thanks once again for watching. Hopefully my keyboard skills were not too painful for both me and yourselves watching this. Bye for now, and I will catch you in the next video.